Hello, everyone, and welcome into the SunDevilSource series recap here with Jake Seymour and Blake Neiman as Arizona State falls in the series to Utah. 11-5, the final here in the series finale, and the Sun Devils now fall to 16-20 overall and 7-11 in Pac-12 play. Jake, it was a tale of two games in this series. Starting on Friday night, we saw the unveiling of the Bobby Winkle statue along the third base concourse, celebrating arguably the greatest coach in program history, leading them to their first 3 national titles. But it was an opposite in terms of the present tense, as ASU fell 10-0 on the Friday night game, what Willie Bloomquist described as the most demoralizing game that he has felt this season. And then on Saturday, ASU comes back, finds the split on Friday and Saturday with the win 8-3, and what Willie Bloomquist described as their most complete game of the season. And then Sunday, they come here today, back-to-back home runs. Seemed like the Sun Devils were continuing that momentum from Saturday, but then later on in the game, we saw Utah really crush the baseball. I think they had 3 or 4 home runs today, ended up putting up double-digit runs for the second time this weekend, and took the series finale. So overall this weekend, very disappointing for the Sun Devils and puts their postseason hopes and aspirations farther and farther away.
Yeah, I mean, flat out, it was a roller coaster of emotions for this team. I mean, you start off Friday, pretty embarrassing loss. Obviously, the statue gets unveiled in front of alumni, too, many of whom were former letter winners who funded the statue by itself. And, the show that they saw at Phoenix Muni on Friday night was not a good one. And anybody in the clubhouse acknowledged that, said it wasn't the best thing, and they addressed it. That's what Bloomquist said Saturday when, like you said, they came out and played well. And I think the thing that you saw with the team on Saturday is they showed a lot of fight, and the offense was returning to what we've seen before with this team. Explosive, getting out, hard hit balls, getting out on base, and driving in runs. And on Sunday, in the early first inning, it looked like that was apparent. It looked like it was going to continue. They had 3 consecutive home runs, and it's like, okay, maybe this team is taking the momentum from Saturday, putting it into a Sunday, what would have been a series-clinching win, and they're going to put the momentum forward. And then Utah came out and completely, flipped the switch. Like you said, 4 home runs in that game.
TJ Clarkson, I believe, had 3 home runs on the weekend. He was phenomenal.
Yeah, he was, I think, 7 for 12 on the weekend. Really, really strong performance from him. And you just kind of start looking at this Utah team and what they did throughout the weekend, and it was a good bounce-back win by them, but obviously for ASU, pretty unfortunate situation.
Yeah, it's been a heck of a turnaround of a season for Utah. They're out to already surpassing their win total from last season when they only had 22. They're already out now to 23 now on the season. But looking at ASU's terms, now they fall to their 20th loss of the year. It's not looking too good for the Sun Devils in terms of their NCAA tournament resume, but it's been kind of micro-focused because they haven't really known where they've been able to go throughout the season in terms of pitching. We'll get with that in a little bit, but they've also been hindered by quite a few of injuries, losing their starting third baseman early on this season in New Contrades, who SunDevilSource reported that is going to actually be out for the rest of the season. That was announced earlier this weekend. And then Jax Ryan, we also found out, another third baseman who was getting reps in the infield, a true freshman he had season-ending surgery. So that leaves a void at the hot corner. Mario DeMera filled in that spot, had a solid weekend, had some good extra base hits. And then on top of that, we've seen some guys have some slumps in this lineup, with Isaiah Jackson not hitting the best. Harris Williams, the leadoff guy, the typical leadoff guy for ASU, kind of took a dip, was 0 for 8 coming into today at least. And then you look at a guy like Kian Vu, who stepped up immensely in that role and has really helped carry forth this lineup in the 2-hole.
Yeah, I mean, Vu's been excellent so far. He hasn't got a lot of playing time, been kind of sparse throughout the season, and he's only made a handful of consecutive starts. Today was, a time where he did do that again. And Bloomquist seemed post-game like he could be a guy that now kind of, gets some more reps, maybe in center field, maybe elsewhere, wherever they can find a spot for him. But you're exactly right. He performed great today, had some clutch moments. I mean, he was one of the 3 guys in the first inning to get a home run to lead off the 3 runs. Yeah. And you kind of just see as the series progressed, when he came in on Saturday, he really kind of made his impact feel known. And DeMera, too, he's done a great job at third base, kind of filling those voids. As Blake said, Nuu Contradas and Jax Ryan are both out for the season with injuries. And it's really left Bloomquist in the situation to try and manage this infield and find some different pieces to to plug the holes pretty much. Ethan Mendoza today, and yesterday too, he didn't get his start at second base, and they put Kevin Karstetter there, who initially started off the season at second base and then kind of trailed off and needed some mental time off, is what Bloomquist kind of described it initially, and then said it was about some medical stuff as well. And he's kind of been out for the last month, but comes in the last 2 days, plays pretty well. And it's kind of the benefits, I think, of what Bloomquist has said before about this lineup being so deep and trying to get so many guys involved and make sure everybody's staying sharp. We saw today Williams got a pinch hit for Ondina, as the game progressed toward the end. And it's just trying to get these guys to stay mentally sharp, as everything goes on. But at the same time, too, when the results aren't coming, and you mentioned it in that, Blake, is when the results aren't coming, you start to look at the resume. And I know they're only halfway through the season at this point, but they have the number of losses where you look at it and you say, well, there's a lot of blemishes on that resume. And ASU's done a great job, I think, of this year of really trying to focus on the process and refining that process to make sure that the results come. Unfortunately for them, even though they're maybe hitting balls well and trying to refine that process, those good results hasn't really followed.
And you talk about the process. It's going to be a process, especially with the pitching staff, with so many freshmen within this rotation. And Willie Bloomquist talked about it post-game of how it's been a very difficult tax of trying to balance and understand different situations and not knowing which guy is going to be pitching on a day-to-day basis, especially with Thomas Burns, the Friday night starter for the good portion of this season, being dealt with an injury over these past few weeks. And he's going to get reevaluated. He got reevaluated on Friday, and he's going to get an update on his status tomorrow. But as far as that, and then in the Sunday slot, Tyler Meyer, we know, has dealt with injuries throughout his career and then didn't come into consistently with his command early on in the year. Now that Sunday's role, which was going to be controlled by Ben Jacobs, he's had to move into the Friday spot in the void of Burns. So it's been a constant element. The really only consistency has been Connor Markle on Saturday night, and he had put together a pretty good performance. ASU only had to use 2 arms on Saturday, but overall the pitching, 6 arms on Friday, 4 arms today. And Ryan Schieffer did not have his best stuff today, which was kind of odd to see. It seems like every time ASU seems to be taking a step forward with the bullpen, the offense it isn't quite there with its steps, and now vice versa with the script this weekend. ASU is having a lot of hard-hit baseballs, but the bullpen just couldn't hold up.
Yeah, I mean, it's an engine right now that's kind of off timing, and they're not firing at the same time. The offense, you see Saturday comes out, does really well, and Markle has a great performance. And then Hunter Omlin comes in, he plays well in relief. So Bloomquist has said it too. That was kind of what he felt like their best complete game of the season. And it came on the end of what he described as the most miserable day of the season as well. So when you kind of put all this together, it leaves you with a situation of where the puzzle pieces they're trying to fit it in different ways, but they're not kind of working the way and painting the picture that maybe that they want. We had said Friday, obviously, with Burns being out, it forced you to use more guys. And then by the time you get to Sunday, you kind of have to rely more on the bullpen and maybe on guys that perhaps you wouldn't use before. But with Markle being able to go on and did what he did on Saturday, it adds importance to that. Because if Markle gets banged up in the first few innings and he gets pulled early on, now you're going to the bullpen even sooner. And now that leaves you out for Sunday and Friday, and it creates headaches trying to figure out which pieces they should deploy, which scenarios.
And so with these unknowns, and I guess ASU has talked about what we can control, unlocking what we're capable of. That has been a theme within the clubhouse and within Willie Bloomquist. And he's talked about how there's been a lot of uncontrollables over his 3 years here at ASU and how there hasn't been exactly calm waters. He hasn't actually known calm waters here in his first 3 years at ASU, and it's not been smooth sailing as he would have liked it to be. But he says once ASU can figure it out, put all the pieces together, which is the hardest part in getting the pitching to get where it needs to be development-wise, and having the offense actually find the ground. They had a lot of hard-hit balls today, but getting them in the right area and keeping that on a consistent basis and having that consistency, I think, is the big thing that this team is looking for right now, and that's something that just hasn't popped up throughout Willie Bloomquist's tenure.
Yeah, I mean, he said it today, it hasn't been calm waters, and, as soon as they get to the point where maybe they're able to have some of those arms available to them and make a rotation that he can kind of consistently know that these guys are the guys who are going to get outs, you kind of kick back, watch sunset, and have some martinis is what the words that he said. So when you look at it like that, though, it just is a nature of how difficult this season has been for ASU in the sense that they've had to overcome so much adversity, with injuries, of course, to the position players, and then you throw in the pitching staff and the injuries they've had, and it was already a staff that was going to be, less to an extent of experience. They lost a lot of guys to the draft last season, had to come in and replace with a lot of freshmen, and the freshmen can only do so much. They need to develop, they need more time to get ready, and you're not going to get Thomas Burns consistently. You're not going to get multiple Thomas Burns. You're going to maybe get one a class. So for ASU to rely on freshmen, it was almost kind of like, well, of course this is going to happen, but when you also throw in the injuries and maybe some other players not performing the way that the coaching staff has envisioned, it's led to this scenario where ASU really needs to kind of figure out and consistently move around pieces to find the right combination.
As much as everyone would like to see where ASU is at in terms of the postseason, Willie Bloomquist has talked about that he just has to focus on Cal State Fullerton, which is upcoming in the middle week. And I think that's kind of something we were talking about before we came on here, of just it's tough for ASU to focus on the postseason right now because they don't even know who's going to be pitching on a day-to-day basis. Willie Bloomquist said he's going to be traveling with extra arms on Tuesday to Fullerton because they just don't have the depth right now for guys to go extended innings without getting rung up. So it's a tough spot right now to where ASU is still trying to figure out their process and how to play winning baseball before they can look ahead to see where they are in the general picture.
I mean, it's a double-edged sword in a lot of ways too, because this is a team that really wants to focus on the process, like I said, and refining that, and then the results will follow with that. You might stumble into a good result if your process is poor, but at the same time, to get consistency, you need a good process. But unfortunately, like you had said, when you're consistently moving pieces around, it makes it hard to find that process and refine it consistently. And I just think with this team moving forward, it's a matter of just trying to find the right combination of pitchers, infielders, hitters, and just try and find a way to win baseball games, because at this point, you're at the halfway point of the season. And right now there's a lot of losses on the resume, and they don't have a lot of room to maybe make some mistakes.
And not much to bolster the resume. There's not a lot of RPI teams ahead.
Yeah, and there isn't. And that's the other part of it, is not only do you have to be kind of perfect, you got to have some balls bounce your way too from some teams around you if you want to have a shot at it. And honestly, at this point, perhaps maybe the Pac-12 tournament and winning that through is maybe their best opportunity to get into the tournament and then play from there.
Still a good amount of games to go for Willie Bloomquist Ball Club, but ASU again falls here at Phoenix Municipal Stadium on their home turf to Utah. Here today, 11-5, the final here in the series finale. For Jake Seymour, I'm Blake Neiman. Thanks so much for tuning in to the SunDevilSource Series recap. We'll see you all soon. Have a great rest of your night.